Hey guys, welcome to World History Unit 5, the Middle Ages, as we talk about the feudal system structure. Okay, so we have already talked about the fact that the feudal system is this economic system and social structure system that we see that really has come about primarily in Western Europe as a result of the fall of the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, and so it's gone from this centralized government where people were taken care of, provided with protection and leadership and things like that. And now that that is gone in primarily in Western Europe, we know that in the Byzantine Empire and Eastern Europe, that's a totally different story during this time. But Western Europe has fallen into these Middle Ages, okay, sometimes even referred to as the Dark Ages, and what we see here on this pyramid is that there's this structure that this high social hierarchy structure and economic structure that falls into place now, and so I want to go over that with you today, and you're just going to fill in the notes on your handout. So at first, what we have here is up at the tip top is the king. Okay, the king has received that title and that position by birthright. It's a hereditary system. This is the monarchy. Okay, and the king controls the land. Okay, the king controls the land. All right, and now at this time too, there's not just like one king in England, okay? There's several kingdoms, several kings, and each of these kings possess a large amount of land, okay? We also see that these kings are the absolute power, okay? This is an authoritarian, totalitarian type leadership or government structure. The king is in charge. Now, we will talk about later, as we move into the unit, the fact that there is someone that seems to really have more power than the king and more influence than the king, and that would be the Pope within the Catholic Church primarily. And so, but we'll talk about that later. And so, in this structure, we have the king at the top, and the king needs help. The king cannot handle the land all by himself, and the king, needs help with that. This is also, again, I mentioned that it's an economic system, and so the king needs money, but the king has to give something to get something, right? Okay, so the king gives land, okay? And he doesn't necessarily give it away like it's not his anymore, but it's somebody that is taking care of that land for him, and he is giving that land to the nobles, okay? So to the nobles. And the nobles are often folks that are also maybe part of that hereditary system, that lineage with with the king. However, they're not as old or not as influential, and so they're not the king, but they are still part of that noble class. And because the king has passed this land down to them, that the nobles have to give something back. And what the nobles give is loyalty to the king. All right, the king knows, okay, I've provided you with this land, and the nobles say, okay, then therefore I'm going to be loyal to you. Now, the king also, again, economic system means that there's a need to make money off this land. So the nobles provide that money. But we'll talk about in just a minute that the nobles aren't necessarily giving the money out of their own pocket. We'll talk about how the nobles get that money. Obviously, they end up keeping a portion of that, and the nobles also provide soldiers now for the army. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the nobles themselves will be the fighters. Okay, but we're going to talk about how in this structure, because you can see, the king, there's one king, there's several nobles, there's even more in this third class, and then a whole lot down here on the bottom. We'll talk about that. All right, so with the nobles, again, they are higher socially, okay? So they have higher social standing. They're kind of looked upon as important people, or whatever. They are often, related to the king, and have that kind of relationship with the king. All right, um, and so they're given this title, you know, or they form some type of alliance, okay, or business relationship with the king. All right. So the king has power. These people are connected to the king. All right. Well, it doesn't stop there. The nobles say, "Well, I'm not going to get out there and work do the dirty job. So I need people to help me." And so they take the land. So say the king has all of this land, and the king gives this set of nobles, or this noble this piece, and this noble this piece, and this noble this piece, and this noble this piece. So within the kingdom, the king may be parceling out land to several different nobles. All right. And then within that, he parcels that down to groups of knights or vassals. Okay. The vassals or knights, they receive this land grant from the nobles. Okay. And they are essentially working for the nobles. All right. Um, you know, they have some social standing, obviously not as high as the nobles and certainly not as high as the king, but they're not the bottom of the barrel. And so now again, kings pass down a chunk to this noble. This noble now is parceled out that chunk to groups of knights or vassals for that. Okay, so let's go back up here. So the nobles give land. So as you can see, the trickle down commonality is land, right? All right, and then the knights and vassals, they give. What do you think they give? They again obviously provide loyalty. They also provide protection, okay, for the nobility. All right, if something happens, they're going to be there to help, be loyal to, and protect the nobility. They also provide money. Again, see, the nobles are giving money to the king. Well, we see that where does that money come from? It is coming from the knights and the vassals for the most part, and then they also will be willing to serve as soldiers, especially the knights. Okay. Well, then the knights say, "Well, man, this is way too much work for us to do ourselves. So we need a group of people." And then this is the largest class here. Okay. So the largest class by far. Okay. Say the king makes up 1% of the people, and the nobles make up another 5%, and the knights and vassals make up maybe 10%. That means, like, we're talking about like 80+% of the people um, make up this lowest social class, this lowest class of people, and these are the peasants. Okay. These are the peasants. Okay, the lowest social class. These people are more than likely uneducated. They will provide the labor. They do the dirty job. Okay, on the manor. We'll talk about manor more later, but um, these people usually are born on the manor and never leave the manor, except maybe if they have the honor to go to war or to join the Crusades. We'll talk about that later as well. And these folks work agriculture, okay, and farming, because this is where the money comes from. All right, all this land is used to grow crops and farming and livestock and things like that, and they make money. All right. And this money goes where? Well, it trickles all the way up to the king. All right. Now, these people don't live rent free. Yeah, they get worked hard. Okay. Life is really hard. Life expectancy at this time for peasants, and maybe really for everybody, is probably only about 28 to 30 years old. Okay. All right. So they even have to pay rent beyond the fact that they are stuck in this really terrible place. They have to pay rent. And if it comes down to it, they have to serve in the army, they have to serve in military service to help fight with the vassals and the knights, or primarily the knights, and to serve in the king's army. Okay. So what we see here is we see knights and vassals. They give they give land, and again, it's not their land, not they're giving it away, but land to live on. Okay, and they provide protection for the peasants. All right, and food. All right, because this is something else that's happened is once they plunge into the Middle Ages, now food becomes less plentiful as well. Okay, life is really hard. Education has basically, especially for the low classes, have come to an end. At least in the um, Western Europe, that has gone into the Middle Ages, and then the peasants, as we mentioned, have that they give labor, okay, and hard labor. All right, they give money and they give military service. All right, so as you can see here, that this is the economic and social structure that is in play here. All right, and eventually, as we start to come out of the Middle Ages, that things begin to change. These people begin to realize, well, hold up, you know what? There's way more of us than there are of them. We actually have more power than we think we do, but that's for another story at another time. But this is that feudal system, all right? Feudalism, and we're going to talk more about that as well. But I wanted you to have this structure, this pyramid structure here, for you to be able to see how that really falls into place, what each of these levels have to give, and what they have to and what they receive. All right, as this feudal system becomes so prevalent here in the Middle Ages. All right, guys, thanks a whole lot. Hope you have a great day. We'll see you in class.